Good morning and welcome to the Franklin Theater and the September 20th Breakfast with the Mayors. I'm Mindy Tate, Executive Director of Franklin Tomorrow, and we want to thank you for having this great crowd here this morning. And we know we'll have a few more trickle in from breakfast down at Bob Parks Realty. And thank you to Cool Cafe for breakfast this morning. And we just want to get started and sort of talk about and thank our sponsors. This is the third breakfast that we've had this year, Breakfast with the Mayors, and we couldn't, of course, do this without the mayors, but we'll introduce them in a few minutes. But Franklin Mayor Ken Moore and Williamson County Mayor Rogers Anderson, and we appreciate their support in participating in the Breakfast with the Mayors. We also could not have done this without our presenting sponsor, and that's First Farmers Bank. And I'd like the folks from First Farmers that are here to please stand, and let's give them a round of applause. Craig Holland and his staff. And First Farmers, you're sitting in this glorious historic Franklin Theater, and that would not have been possible without the support of First Farmers, which underwrote the construction funding for this. So thank you. Also presenting sponsors this year were Ryan Search and Consulting, which is Dan Ryan sitting right there. Yay, thank you, Dan. Cool Cafe, which has fed us breakfast every one of our breakfasts so far this year. We had a little light breakfast this year in anticipation of coming to the theater and having something a little more transportable than that country ham and sausage gravy that they had in June, which, you know, in the hot summer months of June to have sausage gravy, maybe not the best idea, but it sure was good, and we appreciated that. So thank you to Cool Cafe. Also sponsoring this month's breakfast has been Bob Parks Realty. Bob is here, Bob Parks, and Danny Anderson and Gail Wallen-Johnson. Thank you for your support of your facilities. We've had the support all year long of the Williamson County Association of Realtors, and Tiffany Chevron is here, I believe, and Danny Anderson, who is the president of that board. We appreciate their support. With us this morning also as sponsors are Harding Smith Contractors, and we have Reese Smith and Steve Smith. Please stand up, gentlemen. Thank you for your support. And Windstream Communications, Walt Gorman, Gary Buckles, Zach, are y'all here to stand up or wave? Thank you for your support very much. Also, Greater Nashville Association of Realtors. I know Don's not able to be here this morning, but I think I saw Price. But thank you for the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors. Great support for this event from the Franklin Housing Authority, and we have Derwin Jackson, the Executive Director, and Al Gregory, the Chairman of their board, so please stand up and say thank you to them. The Heritage Foundation, and then the Franklin Theater. Thank you. You know, as you know, this event opened on June 3rd of this year. The Franklin Theater brings live music to this stage every Saturday night. The impressive roster of past performers includes the Vince Gill, Nancy Griffith, Keb Mo, and Michael W. Smith. The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is playing a sold-out show here this weekend, but the Judds were just announced for this venue on October 18th and Michael McDonald on November 1st. And you can go online to www.franklintheater, and that's re.org, to get tickets to those events. The other great thing is that movies are $5 through the end of the year here at the Franklin Theater. So be sure and come back and visit this facility and support downtown, because downtown is the heartbeat of our community, and we appreciate that so much. But we're going to move on to our program, and I'm going to introduce Dan Ryan, who's the chairman of our board of Franklin Tomorrow.
Wow, what a turnout. It's a pleasure to have you here this morning. Just a little precursor before I introduce our speaker. Today's speaker really exemplifies how just a subtle change in the shade of orange can evoke such emotions in the Southeast. If you go to the loveliest village on the plains, where I'm going this weekend, there's one color of orange. If you go to Gainesville, there's another color of orange. And if you go and see the Vol Navy, there's even a third color of orange. I'll let you figure out the rest as I go through the introduction. Prior to accepting the appointment as the HUD Southeast Regional Administrator, Ed Jennings' service in the Florida House garnered several awards, including being named one of Florida's Trend Magazine's top 7 freshmen in the legislature and Affordable Housing Advocate of the Year. Throughout his legislative career, he served on various committees, including the Vice Chair of Community Colleges and Workforce Development, Commerce Council, Transportation and Economic Development Appropriations Committee, and the Insurance Committee. Jennings founded his real estate development firm in 1997, which became an economic vehicle for revitalizing East Gainesville. His professional experience includes development, construction, acquisition, and property management of varied housing types. They include low-income housing, tax credit housing, single-family modular housing, transitional housing, mixed-use property, and commercial retail space. I bet you know Steve Precourt also, don't you? I thought you would. As a business leader seeking to make significant impact in his community, Jennings served on the boards of the Alachua County Public Schools Foundation, Gainesville Area Chamber of Commerce, Builders Association of North Central Florida, African American Accountability Alliance, and the United Way. He's garnered several numerous civic and professional honors for his community and legislative contributions. He earned a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science with a minor in Spanish from the University of Florida. And during his tenure at the University of Florida, he also served as president of Florida's as president of the most prestigious honorship society, the Florida Blue Key. Please give a big round of applause to our speaker this morning, Mr. Ed Jennings.
Good morning. Come on, this is the South. We believe in call and response. Good morning. Thank you so much. Don't be upset with me already. When I had the opportunity, when my boss, Miss Pat Hoban Moore, called me about coming down here, I'm not sure if she looked at the Saturday's schedule in the fall. Then I looked at it and I said, well, boss, because you said to go, I'll go. But it depends on how things turn out on a second Saturday in September, figure how things work out. Now, of course, I had to dress appropriately, Mr. and Mr. Mayor, to make sure you understood that there are hues of orange and there are hues of orange. Somebody said this morning, the publisher, I believe, said, you go to that little school in Gainesville. I said, is there any other school to go to? We have had a little run lately. I'm a proud member and the son of a proud member of the Gator Nation. So we're excited that we're both going through transition, but I affectionately call this little part of the world the SEC. I happen to be the regional administrator for Region 4, which has Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, and when I get tired, we go to the Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Some 65 million people living in this region. We've got a little over 1,200 staff members. And all the best and greatest things happen on Saturdays in the fall. And after we go to church on Sunday morning and ask the Lord forgive us for what you might have drank or said the day before, we get to work on Monday morning back at it. So I'm glad to be here. Before I get started, I want to introduce two of my best. I happen to have 13 field offices in this region of the world. Two of them, one is in Knoxville, Tennessee, where the last time I went there, I want you to know they were very disrespectful and saying Rocky Top, and I said the fall is coming. That gentleman is a young man named Ed Ellis, who's from North Carolina originally. We'll introduce Ed Ellis, our field office director in that office. And at the retirement of a young man named Bill Durrell, we looked for another Tennessean who also is part of that little school in Knoxville. You can't get away from it around here. A young man named Keith Richardson, who's originally from Murfreesboro, just took over several months ago as the field office director here in Nashville. So give him a round of applause as well. I'm so glad to be here, to be in a city with such extraordinary vision and talent, the idea that you're having a conversation about affordable housing. I believe, Mr. Mayor, as a son of a mayor myself, I understand that people really have no barriers to mayors. They knock on your door at 11 o'clock at night. They'll come to you at Publix in the morning, at church right after the prayer. They'll say, Mr. Mayor, I have a little issue we need to address. We need to address it right about now. And I understand that having local leadership is important, met one of my colleagues as well in the floor, and that I served in the Florida House. I met a young man who served in your Tennessee legislature as well, so I wanted to acknowledge him and acknowledge this community as being one of the 5 best places to live is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and having been on Money Magazine's top 16 as well. Well, what does all that and that pretense and that opportunity mean for the opportunities here in this community? How can you work with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, work with the Obama administration in a new way to really make this part of the world an extraordinary place? I will tell you about a week on the job last year, I had the opportunity to come over to Middle and West Tennessee after the floods. The Tennessee floods really were a benchmark in how federal, state, and local partners can work together. Everyone had an idea of what had happened after Katrina, which was really just a bad time for this entire country, and it didn't make us look good. But I say, and I choke this back as I say it, I understand now why you are called the volunteer state. I saw men and women stepping up, particularly faith-based organizations, coming in, giving out clothes, giving out food, with rakes in their hands, just saying, government, whether it be city, state, or federal, you can come if you want to. I'm going to be down here on the ground taking care of my fellow Tennesseans. I'd never seen anything like that, where people on the ground, the leadership came from the ground. So please give yourselves and all those who gave them a round of applause for that kind of service. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Again, having been on the job for a week, to see that kind of spirit. I didn't go around and do too much and say thank you for what your service was. That kind of leadership gave me a new inspired spirit. It gave the country a new inspired spirit of what could be done when men and women with just good hearts and good wills could make something happen in a new and different way. And such this conversation as we find ourselves in this place in history, having been challenged with the most economically stressful time in almost 2 generations, almost 60 years, we look at how do we recover? How do we, as a country, as a region, as a state, and for you, as a community, step forward with a new vision for this community to make it the most special place that it can be. Not quite as a little place called Gainesville, but you can try. It's a place to step up, to aspire to, as I always are going to chide you during this speech, just because we enjoy that around here, and I think you enjoy it when it's your turn as well. But the idea that people on the ground could decide that we would be a new and different place. You all heard a little over 10 days ago, the president came forward with his plan for the American Jobs Act. The idea of getting America back to work, but really based on the principles not of any great ideas in Washington, not any great ideas in Atlanta, but those communities, and there's a program called NSP, Neighborhood Stabilization 1, 2, and 3 program, some $7 billion that has been on the ground where cities and counties and states have worked together to acquire homes that have been foreclosed on, to invest in communities, to give families an opportunity to pay their mortgage in a time of challenge. That $7 billion has created almost 100,000 jobs around the country. It is not the end-all be-all. It cannot solve the world's ills. But what you have seen in the American Jobs Act, particularly as it relates to a program called Project Rebuild that the president has outlined for some $15 billion, twice as much in NSP 1, 2, and 3, is an opportunity for not only us to acquire and rehab those foreclosed homes, but to bring the private sector to the table that was not a part of the original program, for them to compete for some $5 billion to come in and redevelop communities, to come in and use not just money on housing, but commercial structure so we can have access to all those kind of developments so we can truly meet the needs of the community in the community and not have to stretch out beyond the 4 corners of a particular neighborhood or community in a very aggressive way. The idea that through this proposal, again, proposal that has been voted on by Republican, Democrat alike, Northern and Southerners, and we don't really in the South, we have a little affinity for the South. Those Northerners are a little shaky on most days, but we Southerners can band together in a whole new way to make sure we can, you give us the resources, also give you the flexibility to use the resources you've got in a new and different way, is what we're all about. We hope to give you some opportunity and help you go to the internet and look at whitehouse.gov, look at US HUD, and look at those programs and look for them yourself. Decide if you would choose to comment to your member of Congress on support or lack thereof for those programs. We believe that through these efforts we can help and create some 280,000 jobs through this program over the next couple of years. But the ideas of how to use your money as that money comes back to you, it's your taxpayer dollars being returned to you. The ideas for that are going to come from the ground. And HUD in particular, in addition to the NSP program, has launched through its Office of Sustainable Communities Initiative a sustainability program that I believe you had some comment on. Your last speaker at this breakfast was your DOT representative. And in this administration, in the Obama administration, we have just tried to put together US EPA, who lately has gotten a little hard time, the DOT, and US HUD. Because you cannot have a sustainable community if you don't have access to transportation, nearby the jobs, nearby the housing. People are spending today 52 cents out of every dollar on housing and transportation. Now, if anything like me coming down here and I saw the line of cars, that I know that's a little tough in the morning. The people that work in the oil business aren't too upset about that. But those of you who are trying to get work, if you are trying to get your spouse out to work, if you have any support in those families who are taking care of your family, people need to plan to be closer to those job opportunities. We hope that you will look at, in the future, applying for some $95 million in planning grants that the most recent cycle just closed on September 16th. We will have another cycle upcoming. We're working with DOT and EPA to have regions come together and talk about how they want to plan, because you don't just, even though the folks at DOT believe in roads, and they believe in roads, and they believe in roads, and did I say they believe in roads? They're even coming to the table and saying, well, it's okay to have a little bit of housing. It's okay to have some bus and rapid transit. Maybe out of here, not just having all those cars, you may decide in the private sector and or public sector to do some large buses, going to city centers and go to looking at the larger job portals and making sure that we connect to those communities in a whole new and different way. As a former tax credit developer myself, as the guy who had to sign his life away before I got married last year, I told my wife, you understand that we just got married, and I know you don't think I have any kids, but I have 3 children already because I had to sign away my life to 3 mortgage companies before that. And as a result of that, I understand what it's like to put my name on the dotted line to pay a mortgage to do a tax credit development of some 100 or 125 or 150 units. I will tell you one of the things that you might consider doing is that with our leadership and us at the table, having some of the multifamily developers come down here and have a conversation with you about where you might want to put some workforce housing. Some of that might be on the single family side, some of the lower price point where you can look at city and county owned lands. You can look at doing some long-term lease of property, but developing some attached brownstone, very high-end development. You can have that kind of stuff there, but you can also need some multifamily workforce housing. I know that there's a whole bunch of NIMBYs because I saw some lovely homes down here. I wouldn't say I could retire down to Middle Tennessee because I wouldn't go to the games I want to go to in the fall. But I'd love to. A community like this is very, very attractive. Coming down here coming down Franklin Road was a beautiful, beautiful community. But we all have got to live in this community together. And that doesn't just mean the palatial estates that are here, but that means looking at whether it's on the job sites of the employers here and almost the old Baptist or AME or Methodist, depending on what your faith is. You had the old parsonage where the pastor would live on the property of the church. Well, what some communities and what some employers are doing is they've got 25, 50, 75, 100 or more acres. They're carving out a little piece to have some workforce housing on site. It makes people much more supportive of the job. They can get up in the morning, walk across the parking lot to work. It can be supported and subsidized in some way by that, not only the tax credits and the investors that do that, but by the employer, him or herself. because people are looking to shorten that commute. People are looking to be able to take care of their lives in a way that's very, very attractive. But also, as you're doing your new development, be looking at solar panels, gas hot water heaters, being in a place where people now are capturing their water and having utility bills of $40 a month, of $40 and $50 a month, because all new construction in this most challenging time should be done in a sustainable way. Because not only does it address the need to have America compete in a green economy, but if you are like me, you want to keep your money in your pocket as much as you can. I always get a chance to talk about my wife when she's not here, and please don't tell her that I talked about her. But every now and then she doesn't mind going to Lenox or Phipps Mall. I don't know where those places are. I try to avoid Peachtree on that part of Atlanta. But every now and then she finds her way there, and sometimes, on occasion, she's an extraordinary cook, but on occasion she just says, "We're going out to eat tonight." And I say, "Yes, ma'am," as I've been taught so well to say. And I need to pay a little credit card bill. So I don't mind having a little bit of money instead of paying the utility company. I have to pay that bill off. So the idea of having, living in a very green building that I live in now, and developing communities that have that kind of mentality about them, that kind of structure, that kind of vision, you all are in a wonderful, wonderful situation, because you can plan for the next 50 years for how you want this community to be, to look at how not only the educational system that you have here that I understand that are wonderful, the high-end communities, but making sure the entire community, those folks who are blue-collar, those who have not been as blessed as you or I will say as you because I'm aspiring to be like you, they can have those opportunities right here in the community. They can have access, of course, to groceries, the education, but have the housing opportunities that are really respectful of the blessing that the good Lord has given to all of us in an extraordinary way. You see, I have been my greatest and biggest blessing, and I will tell you, and this is really off script, and I know it's on TV, so I'm sure somebody will say something about it, and that's okay if they do that. My greatest blessing is that my parents have been married for 47 years this last June. Thank you. Everything I am or ever will be is because of that. I married a young lady whose parents have been married for 52 years. So I can't even screw up 100 years of marriage. And that type of vision, when you share that, see, it's one thing for respectfully your domestic worker or your landscaper or even your plumber or carpenter to come in and get a chance to work in your home for an hour or two. But it's another thing when they get a chance to grow up with your kids and they see how life is. The greatest sustainable community is not just where the housing may be placed, near the transportation, near the education, near the hospital, near the Publix or grocery store. That's not the most sustainable community. The most sustainable community is where little boys and little girls get up and every morning get a chance to see other little boys and girls and moms and dads who are raising their family in the truest of the American spirit. I will tell you in 47 years, and I won't talk about my dad, but I do it all the time, too toughly, that my dad was growing up 6'3", 225. He's a big boy. Every now and then he might raise his voice, just ever so slightly, raise his voice at me, and on occasion, even raise his voice at my mom. But what I learned most, and this is, again, very much off script, but it speaks to the heart of America, heart of this community, is every morning it was what's for breakfast. And I learned after some now 43 years of what's for breakfast, no matter what happened the night before, that I could be anything. We could come up to Knoxville and beat the Volunteers. I could achieve anything I wanted to because of what was taught to me in that home. Why is that germane to now? As I try to bring this in, is our American spirit is challenged because we have more of a mental recession than anything else. We're trying to figure out how do we get to that next step? How do we get over this challenge? And I would tell people as we celebrated a week ago, 10 years after 9/11, where those most obnoxious humans decided they wanted to attack us. And they didn't know who they were attacking. They didn't understand that as the gentleman did in Japan on December 7th, 1941, and they attacked this country, they thought they were attacking a toothless tiger, and we reared up in a special way. And for the last 10 years, men and women have decided to volunteer themselves to wear the uniform to defend our flag. in a whole new and different way. And 10 years later, we are a stronger country. We are a fabulous country. And because we have this economic challenge right now, there are men and women in this room and out of this room, all across this state, all across this region, all across this country saying, we're going to get it back. We're going to come back. We're going to create the jobs. We're going to have the ideas. And if we can incent communities like this one to decide that they are going to be something new and special, despite all the wrangling going on in Washington, we're going to get it right down here in Middle Tennessee. We're going to use every man and woman. We're going to use great examples of family to build affordable housing, to make it next transportation. We're going to use the programs that the government gives, and the ones they don't, we don't care, because we're going to make it happen right down here in Middle Tennessee. I will tell you, if you do that, 50 years from now, maybe when the Volunteers beat the Gators again, this community will be an extraordinary community. I look forward to maybe coming back if the good Lord has me still on the planet at that time. But we will have said that today you decided that this community was going to be a special place for the next generation of Americans, for the next generation of Tennesseans. Thank you very much, and wish you Godspeed.
Well, now we did get Mr. Ed Jennings to come to Tennessee, and we don't want him to forget that he came to beautiful Franklin, Tennessee. So we're going to present him with this copy of Historic Franklin, Tennessee, a picture book that will let you know the beauty you're missing here in Middle Tennessee.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I like to correct a mistake when I make one, and I made an omission earlier in forgetting to mention one of our great sponsors, and that's Berry Farms, Boyle Development, and there's some information out in the lobby. Phil Fawcett and Adam Ballish are here from Boyle, and we appreciate their support this morning. And we appreciate Merity's Coffee, and there'll be some more of that out there for you after this meeting is over as well. You heard a lot in Mr. Jennings' remarks regarding sustainable communities. I'm going to introduce Franklin Mayor Dr. Ken Moore, who has been mayor of Franklin since January of this year. And even before that, when he was elected alderman 2 years ago, he has vowed to make Franklin one of the nation's most sustainable communities in a lot of different ways. And that doesn't just involve housing, it involves a lot of different aspects of that. And so Mayor Moore is going to speak to us now. Franklin Mayor Dr. Ken Moore.
Well, good morning, and Ed, thank you so much for your comments, and I know that our city will be able to profit and benefit from your comments as we move forward. I'd first like to recognize the aldermen that are here this morning. I know I saw Vice Mayor Barnhill, and I saw Alderman Peterson, and I saw Alderman Bransford, Alderman Martin, but if you'd just stand up and be recognized, I would appreciate that. And I always recognize the most important person in my life, my wife Linda. So the city of Franklin has a very diverse population. And with that diversity comes a lot of diverse housing needs. People move to Franklin because of our schools, the education level that's been obtained, low taxes, quality of life, and safety. Our community is made up of young professionals, young couples, moderate income families, single parent households, single residents, empty nesters, and senior citizens. And all of these segments of our population have unique needs. And as a city, we need to plan for those needs. The buzzword in the election cycles I've been involved with is always, housing has always been an issue that's come up. In particular, affordable and workforce housing. And it's no secret that we live in a community that's very blessed, that home prices are in the high 300s on average. And I would like to share a video with you this morning of a couple of local workers who wanted to live in Franklin, They couldn't. They stopped by the office last week and we chatted, and I want them to tell you their story. So if you just watch the video.
I looked in different areas of Franklin, and the parts that I saw that I thought I could afford, I couldn't because it was out of my price range. I wasn't in the bracket to be able to afford that type of housing. And the housing that I could afford, I wasn't comfortable with.
You know, I moved here in 2005 from Tampa, Florida, actually avoiding an even larger housing problem there, and took a job in Franklin and really liked the city, just everything that it had to offer. And so worked here in Franklin, but wasn't able to find anything in a reasonable price range that I could afford. And so we moved further south, and so now we're living in the Spring Hill-Thompson Station area because that was the only option that we had. That was the shortest drive that we could make that limits our commute to and from work. But still, it's not exactly where we want to be ultimately.
Franklin is a very beautiful place to live in, and the people here, they seem to like living here, and you want to be a part of that atmosphere. But when you can't live in that atmosphere, it just puts you a little damper into your spirits if you want to live somewhere where you can't live.
It's a pretty quick realization when you start doing searches, especially in today's market where you're searching online, and within 10 minutes you realize that anything, Williamson County is the 17th richest county in the country, and so housing prices have followed accordingly. And so anything in a price range that fits someone like me who's in the median income level, the options are few and far between.
Housing is a complicated issue, and not only is the city of Franklin studying this issue, but we have the Housing Commission, we have Franklin Tomorrow, we have the Franklin Housing Authority, we have Habitat for Humanity, the Mount Hope Hard Bargain Redevelopment, and they're just a few of the groups in our community that are studying this issue. As a city, we've chosen to divide up housing based on single home values. And that's when we speak of affordable housing in Franklin, Tennessee, based on government rules, a home less than $204,000 is considered affordable. And those above, well, $204,000 to $384,000 are considered workforce housing that teachers could afford. And then those greater than that value are called above. If we look at a chart, we'll see that it appears that we have 19% of our housing stock that is in the affordable range and 58% that is in the workforce group. But then if you look at the average age of a home in the affordable category, those homes are 46 years old. I mean, look at that. Affordable, 46 years old, and also with that comes, you know, lots of maintenance issues. In 2010, there were 119 affordable homes that were sold, 12% of the total. And all of those homes that sold were older homes except for 4. And those 4 homes were new construction by nonprofits. 496 homes sold that were in the workforce group, and 34 of those were new construction, and the rest being older housing. The conclusion from this, in my mind, is that the available housing for affordable is generally older housing, and with that age comes all the repair issues and maintenance issues. So the question is, what is the city doing? Specifically, I would like to address what the Housing Commission is doing. This commission was formed in 2007 to encourage the production and maintenance of affordable housing, raise community awareness of potential business opportunities involving partnerships with neighborhood, residents, and community development organizations, and also to advise the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Accomplishments to date include being a community development block grant community and receiving federal funding through HUD, In 2008, former Mayor Schroer created the Housing Commission. The city has made a commitment to fair housing, and more recently, an inclusionary housing ordinance was created so that whenever a developer asks for more density in a development, at the same time, he also has to create a certain number or percentage of affordable housing units. We've also created a full-time staffing position. The Housing Commission continues to work on identifying the barriers there are to affordable housing, and there's also a program called Round Up. And if you're not on Round Up, I would appreciate your taking that opportunity, because that money helps offset some of the startups' cost for the nonprofits that are building homes in our community. There are several incentives for builders and nonprofits that they've created. The next slide shows how the city has utilized some of its community development block grant funding. We receive roughly $250,000 a year in this funding, and much of this is used in emergency repairs for some of the existing housing stock, such as roofs and plumbing issues and so on and so forth. And you see that we've tried to use that money wisely. The next steps for the Housing Commission would be to continue to identify the housing stock and determine what the needs are of the employees who want to live in Franklin. For example, in the city, 70% of our workers live outside of the city. So we need to continue to investigate that. We need to continue to set goals. And as Ed mentioned, we also need to continue to mention transit options as we develop housing, and of course education, public relations. Last one bit of good news, and that is that the Franklin Housing Authority just received official notification that they will be receiving tax credits that will allow it to move forward with its senior living facility. This is a great opportunity for the Housing Authority to proceed with redevelopment of the Reddick Street property, and it's another step forward as far as addressing housing issues in our community. So I appreciate the opportunity to briefly chat with you about a very, very complicated issue. And Mindy, I'm ready to yield to my good friend.
Thank you very much, Mayor Moore. This is a complicated issue, and it's an issue that is bigger than just Franklin. It's all of Williamson County, and then it becomes something that you talk about the region. Williamson County Mayor Rogers Anderson is active regionally in the Mayor's Caucus and the Nashville MPO and other agencies, and so Mayor Anderson is going to speak with us a little bit about the regional challenges and the challenges that all of Williamson County faces in this issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you for being here. I think there's a couple of county commissioners sitting out there. I always try to identify them. Brian Beathard, would you stand up? And Kathy Danner, did I miss anyone else? These are the county commissioners that have been able to get here this morning. And of course, I know most of you know this, that Charles Sargent and Jack and Johnson and Glenn Cassidy are out there somewhere. How about raising your hand or standing up, guys? They've supported. Putting my thoughts together would be best handled by a gentleman that I was sitting with up on the front. Michael, I'm going to ask you to come up here just a couple of minutes. There's two reasons for that. Come on up, Michael. He didn't know I was going to call on him, but I want Mr. Jennings to get to know this gentleman. Since Florida has beat Tennessee so bad, and it grieves my heart to have to stand up here and say that, being a big Orange fan, I want you to meet a gentleman that's applying for a $5 million grant so that you can come back here. Come on over here, Michael. Michael Skipper is the executive director of the MPO, and I'd like for him just to touch on exactly what this 10-county region is doing out of the Nashville area. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. I should have known better than to sit next to you this morning. Well, my name is Michael Skipper. I'm the director of the Nashville Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a regional partnership of cities and counties working closely with state and federal agencies in Middle Tennessee to plan for the future with transportation investment. So the city and county mayors come together on our executive board and ultimately decide how to invest federal transportation dollars in roads and bridges and transit, walking and biking infrastructure to support community visions for growth and development. I'm happy to report that under Mayor Anderson's leadership, our region will be applying for a $5 million grant to the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, Department of Housing and Urban Development, to continue the work that you've all started here in Franklin through Franklin Tomorrow to create a shared vision for growth and development for the next 25, 30, 40 years for all of Middle Tennessee, that entire 10-county region, to align our decision-making for housing and transportation and the environment, economic development, workforce development, to a commonly shared vision for growth and development to create sustainable communities all across Middle Tennessee. So Middle Tennesseans are looking to Franklin as a model for how to do this, Franklin Tomorrow specifically, and we look forward to continuing the efforts that were started here regionally. And $5 million would go a long way to reducing the pain that I still feel from Saturday. So anything you could do on that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Williamson County continues to grow. Some of you have heard me say and kind of give a spiel, and I don't have a power presentation, but I do want to leave you with some very positive news that we have received just in the last few days, in case you haven't heard. Yesterday, the major announcement was made as Dr. Ken Moore and myself and several of the elected officials met with Med Solutions here in town. They're behind the Marriott. They're having an expansion of 250 plus jobs here in our community. We continue to grow in our community. Many of you know that Williamson County is the fastest growing county in the state of Tennessee. It amazes me every time that I say this that in August, last month, that's okay. Last month, August, we opened our, you ready for this? 5th school in 12 months in Williamson County. There are very few places across this state and nation that can honestly say they have opened that many schools in a 12-month window. That growth is centering around the Nolensville area. That growth is centered around the Spring Hill Thompson Station area. And already to date, as of last week, we have well over 800 children more than we had at the end of May for just this year. So we continue to grow, and our challenges are there just like they are here. And managing those dollars, providing affordable workforce housing for all people is so very important. And this county is very blessed. We're very unique. And I thank Franklin Tomorrow for highlighting and spotlighting these types of topics. And I thank Mr. Jennings for coming up and making his speech and letting us see that there is opportunity. It's very difficult for us to qualify for most of this money. Let's don't kid ourselves, and we have to figure out a way to make those numbers work. Thank you for being here, Mindy. It's all ears, or we turn it over to Dan. Dan?
Ava Goldman is here with Michael's Development, and Ava is just going to give us a quick snippet about the housing project here in Franklin.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I appreciate the invitation. Some of you may never have heard of the Michael's Development Company. We're a very quiet company. Our roots go back to the 1960s when we started developing affordable rental housing. And over the years, we've developed over 45,000 housing units from the U.S. Virgin Islands up to about New Hampshire, and from, let's say, the Jersey Shore all the way west to Honolulu. So we're a very busy organization. And one of our favorite communities by far is the city of Franklin. We're so pleased to be here. And we're so grateful to the board of the Housing Authority and to Derwin Jackson, the executive director, for having invited us to come to Franklin. We responded to a request for proposals on a competitive basis, and we were delighted to have been selected to do something that's really visionary. I don't know of any public housing authority anywhere in the country who's done this. They said, let's take a look at not one housing project or a second housing project, but let's look at our entire public housing stock and see what we can do to revitalize it. As Dr. Moore mentioned, there's nothing really wrong with Franklin's existing housing stock, but it's kind of old. I thought that statistic about the affordable housing stock being on average 46 years old, it kind of tells the story. One of the things that we've been able to do all over the country is expand the whole notion of affordable housing so that communities not only include public housing, but they also include housing, workforce housing, and they also, in some communities, even include market rate housing. And so one of the first things we did when we came to Franklin, which was about 2 years ago, I think, is we, with the help of some people in the room, the community, our architect, we developed a master plan. And in the course of developing the master plan, we came up with a program to replace, over time, this is a very ambitious program, to replace Franklin's 300 units of public housing with 600 units of mixed income housing. One of the things that I thought was most interesting about Mr. Jennings' comments this morning was the whole notion of the connection between housing and transportation. One of the tremendous assets of this community is all 8 of the existing public housing developments in the city of Franklin are all within walking distance of this community, of this theater, which is a tremendous asset to think about. The pleasure of being able to not get in your car, to be able to walk to the theater, to restaurants. It's a tremendous asset. And over time, it should be able to attract a great blend of mixed incomes. All communities have to start somewhere. And where we started, and I was delighted that the mayor brought a picture, was the senior residence at Reddick. It took a tremendous amount of effort, but we managed to pull together the financing that was required to build this new 49-unit development for the elderly, in keeping with the whole notion of the connection between transportation and housing. This senior housing is going to be directly across the street from the Williamson County Library. I'd love to be a senior living in this development and knowing there was a library right across the street, and that people could walk to restaurants and to services in town. It's really a tremendous asset. I mentioned that we love to work in the city of Franklin. I work in a couple of communities, which will remain nameless, where no one gets along. The mayor of the city hates the county executive of the county. The county hates the housing authority. No, they all have the same goals, but nobody gets along. One of the pleasures of working in Franklin is that everyone is supportive, has been tremendously supportive of our efforts, and everybody gets along. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. We love working in Franklin, and we look forward to working in Franklin for many years in the future.
We've got time for just a few questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question for any of our speakers or on the topic? Or I have a question for the audience. Is affordable and workforce housing, this is an audience made up much of business people. Is the availability of affordable or workforce housing an issue to your business? If it is, raise your hand. If you have a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Patty? Have a comment? We're going to hear more. Franklin Amaro is working with Nashville MPO, with Michael Skipper and that group, on what is called the Power of 10 project, that is a regional project, and we will try to provide a little more information about that on our website so that you can learn a little bit about that. But it does involve the Sustainable Communities project that Mr. Jennings discussed that HUD has undertaken for the EPA, the Department of Transportation, and HUD to work together. We are so lucky this morning to have this great facility to be in here in downtown Franklin, but people need access to it, and we rely on transit. We've got that, but I bet that parking garage on 4th Avenue is full this morning. What do you think? Is it full? I didn't know. I got here at 6 a.m., so I think it wasn't full then. But we want to just wrap up this morning, or Mr. Jennings has a comment?
I'm very impressed. One, thank you all for having me here with that kind of growth in this community, in the school system. And I would just tell you, most times in most communities, when schools are built, they get some significant tracts of land, usually a little more than they need to start out with because they're looking at the anticipation of growing at some point. And many times, one of the most challenging workforce opportunities, workforce housing opportunities for the teachers. Obviously, very safe and secure, great neighbors, the kind of folks you want around your children on a regular basis as much as possible. The idea of maybe doing some land leasing, not selling, but some land leasing on maybe a couple acres of that property, doing some attached product can be very attractive for bringing your teachers into this community. Remember, I use the old parsonage model for a pastor for one church, but you may be able to get 10, 15, or 20 teachers, particularly some of the younger teachers that may not have a family as of yet, do some attached housing, and that housing can be a part of their package as they're being employed, whether it's at a reduced rate. You can work with the unions on how to put some kind of package like that together. I think it's a wonderful opportunity when you're building the way you're building to put it in on the front end, to carve out some space when the county school district is acquiring that land. Also, when you're talking about senior housing, you want to make sure that you're having conversations with your healthcare communities and healthcare companies to make sure that there is, if it's not walking distance, but great access to healthcare. Most seniors, their number one issue is they really want access to one thing, and then a couple things are extra. The thing they want access to the most is their grandkids. That part we don't control. After their grandkids, they want access to quality healthcare, having nearby shopping. And so when you're planning these communities, whether they be things that are developments that are planned by the Housing Authority or other private developers, you want to make sure you're planning for and talking to the private sector, not to make them be housed there, but when you've got 50, 75, or 100 seniors, at some point they're going to need health care. Do they have access to a CVS or Walgreens or some type of pharmacy as well to get their prescriptions filled? So as you are planning the future and development of this community, if you'll keep those kinds of things in mind, again, you're a community that will continue to lead the state of Tennessee, lead the region, lead the country as the kind of place I want to be like, and a place where people want to come to because you're meeting all the needs of the citizens of your community in the community. And that's a really, really big deal, and I look forward to your great success over the next months and years.
Yeah, my name is Tom Grimm. It's just a statement. I've had the blessing over the years to travel around the country, live in a number of different places, and I'm just extremely encouraged today that there are a group of people within the business community, the government, locally, federally, who are looking to work together as well as the private sector. And I just know that in this room there's a tremendous amount of talent. Those who might consider themselves social entrepreneurs as well as private entrepreneurs, and I just look forward to working with Franklin tomorrow more, and Mindy and what the organization is doing. I'm just very, very encouraged, very thankful to have the opportunity to be a part of a community that is committed to affordable housing and doing it in partnership with the private sector as well as the public sector.
Thank you. Any other questions or statements?
One comment, I spent a lot of my time, wasn't raised there, but lived in the Detroit area. And Detroit had a unique phenomenon, which I think is relevant here, that as people moved out, they moved into suburbs. And suburbs filled up over a 5 or 10 year period, and they were very homogeneous. And so you went to one suburb, you got a certain age of housing, a certain income group. You went to another suburb, you got a different group, another suburb, a different group. And of course, they all had their own schools and everything. They did not interact that much. And then I lived out further in Ann Arbor where you had a very diverse group of people. You had workers, you had people that taught in the university, you had a lot of industry, scientists, and everything like that. A much richer environment. And I think that we run that risk here of having a very homogeneous community, which has advantages, but the disadvantages is that people don't live with other people who have different experiences, and they do not. Then they go off to college and they never have the experience of meeting people who aren't just like them. And I think that this affordable housing really brings more of that into the community, and I really endorse it, because I think that the flip side of that is not so good.
Thank you. I'm lucky. I own my own home, and I do thanks to some gentlemen who are here in the audience who've helped me buy my first home. And I now live in what I always believed was my dream home. But it's older. It's something, though, that is a dream home for me. And this topic is important and has been on Franklin Tomorrow's radar since we were founded in 2001 by a group of local businessmen and city officials. Franklin Tomorrow is a community visioning nonprofit. We work in 9 different areas. Those are business, community character, education, environment, government, housing, growth and development, recreation, and transportation. The goals and strategies of Franklin Tomorrow were set by the citizens of Franklin during a visioning process in 2001, 2002. They were refocused and revisioned in 2005. And we're currently working on, hundreds of volunteers have been working for several months on refocusing the goals and the strategies in all 9 areas. We'll begin to present those to the public in October. The first glance of those will be at the Williamson County Chamber Business Expo on October 4th, but the complete Vision Fair will be held on October 29th as part of Pumpkin Fest. It will be held on the city square. Look for the signs that say Vision Fair. And what we want you to do, if you have not participated in this process before, this is open to people who live, work, or play in Franklin. Come and see if these goals and strategies are what you believe are for the vision of the future of Franklin, and how we can accomplish that vision. Franklin Tomorrow works in the areas of education, advocacy, evaluation, implementation, and recognition. And so there's a way for you to get involved in Franklin Tomorrow as these committees move forward. The visioning process is not static. It is a continual process that we will have these committees active, and in 2012 we anticipate that we will have 2 to 3 task forces or projects that we will undertake that are a result of the overriding endorsement or statements made during the Vision Fair process. So it really is important that you mark that. We're also looking for an electronic way to let you vote on those and have your input, and we'll be looking for volunteers. If you've enjoyed the Breakfast with the Mayors, First Farmers has committed to be our presenting sponsor in 2012 for those. Thank you, Craig Holland. Thank you again for that. So. We are going to have 4 breakfasts in 2012. We've also already have a commitment from Windstream Communications to be a sponsor, a partner sponsor for that event. There are opportunities available to be a sponsor and help select the topics that would be discussed in 2012 for the Breakfast with the Mayors. Those also will probably, some of that will be focused out of the vision fairs and the topics that come forward from that process. So we want to encourage you. There's information in the lobby regarding that if you're interested in that sponsorship. And then just finally, I wanted to mention you each got a copy of the Decade Report in your chair. We want you to take that with you. And if you want to go around and grab an extra koozie or 2, I'm happy for you to do that too, because I don't have to pack them back up that way then. But the Decade Report really gives history of the past 10 years of Franklin Tomorrow and what's been done during that time. Also on the back is information about how to get your historic Franklin license plate. That's that pretty plate with the sunflowers and Carton Plantation on the back of it. We'd like to ask you to support Franklin Tomorrow by purchasing that license plate when you renew your tag. And then also it has some information about our new organization, Friends of Franklin Parks LLC, which will allow us to offer individuals and organizations the opportunity to make tax-deductible donations to Franklin or Williamson County park entities for improvements or specific projects in those parks. But I can't say enough, and I want to thank again our major sponsors this morning, First Farmers, Ryan Search and Consulting, Cool Cafe, Bob Parks Realty, and Berry Farms. And thank you so much for being here, and we'll stand adjourned this morning. Thank you.